special guest here, Doris, from Brown Girl Woke. Um, get ready, y'all, for to be woke today. She is here to give us a lot of gems about what's going on, anything, everything. And today is also Mental Health Day, so that's another good thing. So, yeah, I'm gonna pass it over to Sheena. Sheena.
Once again, thank you so much, Doris. Am I able to say your full name? You're like, let me think about it. It's okay. It's all right. If they want to find out, they can go ask you.
There you go.
But on my right, if it's the screen, we have Doris Tulifao. She has started Brown Girl Woke ever since, if I'm not mistaken, 2017. Is that correct?
In a Pia.
There you go. So she has started Brown Girl Woke. She has so many scholarship programs set up. She has teamed up with Miss Amor, where they're able to send out vaccination and food to the island, and also Kalani Naswalu has publicly appealed to donate towards Brown Girl Woke. She has so many programs. Her hands are dipped in so many programs in American Samoa alone. Like literally, I would have to say she's a spokesperson for American Samoa. If I would have to say, we are truly honored and grateful for you being here. She has touched and she has led so many youth. She has opened up Brown Girl Woke as a platform for younger women and also men, so that they're able to grow mentally, spiritually, and also in their gifts and talents. We are super excited to hear what gems you are once again going to give us. Russell, if you want to take it away.
Oh, me? Again? Me again? I just want to see if you were right. Yeah. Well, she pretty much said everything that I was gonna say, so I'm gonna let Doris let us know what's going on.
What's up, everyone? I just want to give big ups to your 49ers shirt because I'm a 49er fan.
Yes, thank you.
I see you always repping too, and I was like, I should have got my 40. It's hot in Samoa. I should have worn my 49er jersey, but I had to keep it. It's hot, so let me calm down. So the red should be enough. Yes, thank you. I'm so honored to be on your guys' platform, especially for us as women to just uplift each other. And we need to show a lot of women that are brown, that a lot of us are speaking up, and a lot of us do encourage each other. I moved to Samoa in 2017 because I used to do a lot of workshops in California on sexual abuse and domestic violence. I am a survivor of both. We didn't have a lot of data. I wasn't getting a lot of support. As we know, in the U.S., we're also with the Asian Pacific Islanders. So I couldn't find enough funding to make sure that I could keep on doing my workshops and going around. I was doing it for free for a long time, but it wasn't giving me enough data. It wasn't giving me enough information to make sure that I can promote or push out things to make sure that we're talking about this at home. So I wanted to come back to Samoa to see what's the data here. So when I moved in 2017, there was a lot of different organizations. And, it's just nice coming back home to Samoa and seeing organizations run by people that look like you, that understand your culture, especially shelters, organizations that deal with women's shelters, with domestic violence, and they got where you came from. So when I came here, all I was doing was learning and learning and learning. And there was a big gap between, and it's the same gap that we have in America with adults and youth as Pacific Islanders. You know what I mean? Like the youth voices are still not getting a platform to speak. So because I was here, I kind of went away from the different organizations that I came to volunteer and do research for and started Brown Girl Woke. Just because I wanted something emphasizing on just youth and giving them a platform for them to speak. So I went into the universities and I started doing poetry slams, music, everything that we do in America. I wanted to bring it back here because I knew it would work. We're like super talented. We're like we're not only like, we're multifaceted. We do everything. Yet, you know, we sometimes forget to go back to our roots and make sure that we tell stories on like using the talents that we have, using music, using poetry. So for the last 3 years, we've had poetry slams on speaking about taboo issues. The kids are freaking amazing. I don't know if you guys watch the videos. That everyone always gives me props. I just build the platform. I remember the first time I gave the platform in American Samoa. One of the kids from Leone High School had like 100 poems, and he was almost a senior, and he was like, I've had all these poems, but I never used them. And it's just making sure that we have those platforms for our kids to speak. And he was a young man, and he was talking about violence. He was talking about corruption in the government. He was talking about church. He was talking about everything. And we don't give our kids, we don't give our kids that time to speak out when they know so much. And you wonder why we're losing kids at church. We're losing kids in different, in our own culture, going away from being Samoan or Pacific Islander, because they always think that it's a take culture, when we got to remember our culture is so beautiful. It's so giving. We just got to make sure that when we talk about it, we, like, our parents need to make sure that they, when they speak about our culture, that there is the give and take and the beautiful part of it. So a lot of my work has been on being in Samoa and just learning more for myself, because I grew up, in South San Francisco and in Modesto, California. I wanted to know my culture more, because the more I would do speeches on sexual abuse and domestic violence, almost every single person would tell me, well, the culture made me silent. So I wanted to go back home and know, what is it in our culture that makes us so silent? And it's because we don't make sure that our kids understand there's a difference between being silent of respect of elders and silent because someone might be molesting you or rape. The whole, Uncle Bully movie, that was the last movie that had all those instances in it. And no one's ever gone back to it to make sure that we talk about these things. And it's such a common, subject that I talked to so much people growing up when I was a kid. I remember so many cousins telling me that they went through it growing up, and we never did anything about it. And we got to understand that it doesn't stop with us if we don't do nothing about it. It will keep going and going. So that's the work I've been doing. Of course, I get backlash because ain't nobody wants to know that, especially for a culture that's so driven on family, that we have these taboo issues, that things like this happen when we're our family dynamic is so strong. But we do, and we need to talk about it to stop this generational curse from happening to the next generation.
So quick question. I have a quick question, Doris. Now, with your experience, you're from Frisco, and am I coming through clear, ladies? Am I okay? Okay. And Frisco is like a very in-your-face, very modern, up-to-date. It's very, colorful. How different is that? Because you were born and raised there, and you going to Samoa and seeing how the culture is getting down to the roots of the culture. What did you find out in regards to why our culture or why our parents, what is the underlining of the keeping quiet and the respect? At what point, what was your feedback from some of the parents? Were you able to hear out why it was a no-no, and or was it just something they weren't ready to address?
I think it's because we as a culture, we never think our culture is not individualistic. We never think of ourselves. We think of everyone before ourselves. And that's the biggest thing, because we keep silent. And I always tell this to any survivors. There's strength in your survival because you sacrifice your body for not only your family, your community, your church, all these things. But we need to understand that, like myself, I always say this as well. As a survivor, it ends with me. We don't need more of us, that sacrificed our bodies, for our family. And it's because of that. We are very communal. We live communal. Everybody lives with their, aunties, uncles. We all grew up with every cousin living in our house. But have we ever sat down with our family members and talked about who is this uncle? You know what I mean? Who is this cousin? Who are the family roles in our family when they come? my parents never gave rules. They just were so happy to take care of, family that came from Samoa. But we need to do that now. We need to give rules. Like, this is my daughter. You don't go into her room. You don't touch, blah, blah, blah. We have to do it now because we've seen that it's not in the mindset. And to be in this next generation where, I went through it, I'm going to make sure for my kids, like if I have anyone coming in, I'm going to know their background. I'm going to know what happened in Samoa or wherever they came from before they come into my house, and something might happen.
That is really good advice because I'm that way right now with my kids. I'm the type like when they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're related." It was like, "How? How are we related? Tell me, please. I want to know where you're from, where you're at." Like, I give them rules. No.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
No, go
especially
ahead. Go ahead.
No, especially if we know that we had so much family members like that. Like, my mom always gets mad at me because when I tell my story, I say it's an uncle, but it wasn't. But I grew up knowing him as an uncle. So me and my mom always get into this, like, she was like, "You tell your story, it's an uncle. It's not an uncle." I said, "But Mom, you made me treat him like an uncle. You made me call him an uncle." And I gave him that respect. So when I tell my story, that's what I want people to understand, that we give these titles freely without making sure they earned it. You know what I mean? Like, we just like, oh, they just come in and we're just trying to take care of, but we got to take care of ourselves too. And that's something that we don't do as a community as well.
That's true. Now that you said that, it makes a lot of sense. Like, that is so true. Like, now that you said that, I'm thinking to myself, like, whenever I meet somebody and my kids meet somebody, I'm like, that's auntie, that's uncle. But only because we were raised that way, to our elders are always our elders. You're my uncle, you're my auntie, but that is true.
Yeah, because we hope that the assumption, like, we're bringing in. Me and my dad always talk about. It's easier. It's crazy because it's easier for me and my dad to talk about this than my mom. But I think because my dad's way more woke, and I tell my dad, and he's like, "Yeah, I think we just assume like we're taking them in. You know what I mean? We're helping them, that they would be that person. You know what I mean? But we can't assume no more. No matter how much we give into people, how much we sow into somebody. That doesn't mean, you know what I mean? Like that they owe us that. That's another thing.
That's
people
really.
think they owe us.
Were you raised being a daddy's girl? Like,
Yeah.
were you always open with your dad?
Yeah, I'm super, super, super duper daddy's girl. Like, even within my story, when I first told my parents, I didn't tell my parents till I was 23 because, I was already doing the work, but I didn't tell my parents because I was doing the work in the universities. So it was kind of hidden from them. And then when I knew that it was going to come out, I was like, oh my God, I better go and tell my parents before they find out that I've been doing this work. Because I started in the shelters, and in shelters, it's confidentiality. So I was in Stockton doing work in Stockton and going to the women's shelters because women's shelters were getting an influx around 2012, an influx of Samoan and Tongan and Hawaiian women and children coming into the shelters. So in Stockton and Sacramento, they have shelters for specifically Asian Pacific Islanders. I don't know if you guys know that, but there are shelters just for Asian Pacific Islanders. So they were getting this crazy amount. And because I was an activist for education, they messaged me and they were like, hey, we're getting this influx of women and children from different areas that are Samoan, Tongan, and Hawaiian, and we need a cultural advisor. Do you know anybody that does this work? And that's how I started doing the work. I couldn't find anybody. So I became that person. And even during that time, I didn't even tell my story. It's like they asked, it's like God made sure that this was in my path. Because when he told me, I was like, wow, this happened to me. And I'm an activist on higher education, but not in my personal truth. You know what I mean? My own story. Wow. So I felt like when I did the shelter work, because it was in confidentiality, nobody knew, and you can't get media in there, it prepared me for me to go out and do and speak.
Wow.
But, we always think that we don't have, we're not in shelters. I mean, now we know that there's a lot, but during that time in 2012, 2014, it was like when I would tell people, they're like, what? We're not in shelters. We're not women's shelters. And like, we actually are, and running away from domestic violence. It was a lot of women running away from domestic violence.
Damn.
With their children. And, it's scary because a few of them, you could lose your kids as well. Foster care system. And you just like, man, we really not knowing what's happening in our community, because we always think that, when we see somebody that we just don't think we're in the system, but we are.
Wow. That's crazy.
So because of all those things happening, even in America during the time when they had to come through, and I felt for myself that I wasn't doing enough work, because I was like, man, I couldn't find nobody in Northern California that was Pacific Islander to talk to these women. I was like, man, I need to keep on doing work. But it shouldn't be just we need a professional. It could also be our fight the owls. You know what I mean? It could also be our women leaders. Like, if we don't have the resources, let's equip ourselves to make sure that we can make spaces, safe spaces for us to talk about it.
And with that being, I would say that it happens more often than not in families, this abuse that you went through. At what age did that happen to you? And how did you get through that? Were you alone? Did you have support?
So it happened to me when I was from the age of 5 to 14, and I just blocked it out. Right when I got to high school, because I stopped going to the family that it was happening to me, like high school, because I was so busy. Like, I made sure I was in everything in high school just so I could be so busy that I wouldn't go to our family's house. So, and then I just blocked it. Like, it's crazy. Like, I could think about it. Like, I don't know how I just blocked it, like from 14 up to 18, and then going through life until the moment the shelter messaged me. It brought back all my memories. And I really didn't even, I just made sure I was one of those, let me just do everything so nobody could see what was happening in my life. Let me wear this mask so everyone doesn't think, and no one would ever thought, because I come from, middle-class family, everyone loves my parents. They would have never thought I have like a strict bully brother that, everyone would think that if he knew, he would kill them. So it was like that in anybody's eyes, the ideal family. Like, how did that happen to you? And I still get that, doing my story. I mean, I've been doing my story for almost 10 years, and I still have people like my uncles or whatever, or my cousins, like, I can't believe that happened to you. And we had to switch that language as well. Like, instead of saying, I can't believe that happened to you, like, say something like, I'm sorry that happened to you. You know what I mean? Like, because you're going to scare other people, and, that might have the same story, that always think that, the victim blaming, because I still get it. I still talk now, and it happened to me when I was 5 to 14 years old. And
I'm not going to
do anything all the time. And I'm like,
I hear that a lot in our culture when it does happen. They'll say, oh, or they'll say, oh, it's your fault. And in my head, as a child, I always try to figure out, like, how is it that a child can get in trouble from what an adult is doing? How is that a child's fault? I never understood that. And it's just crazy that how you said that, switching over the phrases, switching it over, and like, not that I can't believe it, but I'm sorry that happened to you. The response is different. That's wow. That alone can help.
We still have people even till now, like because that's the work that I do now. I get a lot of survivors that come and see me, and when I go see their parents or their mom or their dad or their uncle, whoever they're staying with, they're always like trying to blame them. And I'm just like, and I always try to make sure they understand, like, it's not their fault. It's not her fault. It's not your fault. It's the perpetrator's fault. And that's another thing we do. We blame everyone but the perpetrator. Like, for myself, everyone was like, what was your parents? I can't believe that you have brothers, because I'm the only girl. And I'm like, it's not my brother's fault. It's not my parents' fault. It's the perpetrator's fault. And until we make sure that we understand the signs and the symptoms of the perpetrator on what his mind is going through, and so we can make sure that all our families see these signs, then we're going to be so busy trying to look outside and not look at the person that it's their fault. So I always try to emphasize it's the perpetrator's fault. And we got to make sure that we do work, not only to make sure that the perpetrator goes to jail because he's a criminal, but to make sure that we understand those things, that he is a criminal. Let's say it all the time. He's a criminal. He needs to know that he's a criminal, and we need to know who they are before they keep going. I had an organization in Utah last month message me, and the way he was the way, because my friend is like he's probably gonna watch. He's super gangster. So he was like calling his like sis. When he was like, it was one of his boy cousins that molested his niece. And he was like, sis, I knew who braided his hair. I knew what houses he be at. I call all of them and tell him he's marked. And I'm like, sometimes that's what you got to do, like to make sure people know, because you're gonna bring in this person in your house and no one told you, and then you're gonna get mad at these people like, damn, you let that guy in, but no one told you the story, because we try to keep it in. It's the worst way to do it, because you don't want something to happen to that person. We need to go to we gotta do the procedures. We're in the U.S. We're not the justice system, but we gotta make them go into the justice system so we know the process, so we can tell if somebody, like, I have people always refer to me like, sis, what do I do? You got to get a lawyer. You got to go to 911, call 911, do a police report. From the police report, get the lawyer. There's free law, legal service in America. Go through the process, because you doing the process will be easier when someone else is going to ask you, like, sis, I heard you went through this. How do I do it? How do I do a, protection order for myself?
So really quick, for the viewers that are on right now, how can you sum up Brown Girl Woke, how that came about, and how did you pick that name?
Okay. So I've been an activist since my whole time in college. So from 2010 to 2014, when I finished school, I told myself that I finally need to be a nonprofit. I used to work with all these different nonprofits, and I was like, now I need to put something under myself. It was easier when I was in university, just jumping into different organizations and helping. But when I finished college, I was like, no, I need to this is all my work. This is my work and my friends. So I was like, I'm going to start making my own organization. And at the time during Obama, because I did a lot of work under the Obama campaign, going through Trump, I was like, man, the woke was trending at the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna call it Brown Girl Woke, because I don't want it only for Samoans. I mean, I went to school my whole life in America. Like, not all my friends were Samoan. You know what I mean? Like, I started with with a few of my Mexican friends and my Black friends. You know what I mean? And the movements that I was in was all my Black friends. You know what I mean? So why would I make it specifically like only for Samoans? We need all of us. I mean, we got to think like that. We had like these different nationalities come before us. Let's learn from them. We had the Mexicans, we had the Blacks before us. So let's learn from them, because they've been through it. So because of that, I wanted it to be like Brown Girl Woke, where it meant everybody. And I wanted, because I am the founder, and I was like, that should be enough that I'm Samoan and I'm the founder, and a girl can look up to that. Like, man, Samoan girl, started Brown Girl Woke. Yes. And wearing like the shirt and the sweater made sure that you were accountable for things. Like, I'm Brown Girl Woke. I know what's going on in my generation. I know what's going on in the world, in my culture, everything, not just specifically one thing. And it started from there. And then I started doing conferences. And then, just because of the culture part, I really wanted to make sure to find ways for us to stop sexual abuse and domestic violence being prevalent in our community and our culture. So that's why I came back.
So Brown Girl Woke is, it brings more awareness. It's more so bringing awareness to sexual abuse and substance abuse.
Domestic violence.
Domestic violence. Wow.
So that's why I started it, because of sexual abuse, domestic violence. It started when I got to Samoa, because it's not the same as America. I wanted to make sure that there was a safe space for youth. We don't have a lot of things here in Samoa, like things for youth to do. There's no after school programs here, extracurricular, anything. It's literally school and home or church. So I wanted to make a space where the kids felt like they were free to speak and talk and say things and make sure to harness their voices. So that's how I started doing poetry slams and things like that. And then it's been developing as now I do during the measles epidemic. Excuse me.
Amen.
Because I'm so connected to America, a lot of my friends want to donate. So we got so much donations for the measles. And now through COVID-19, I still have that connection, like with Kalani and Asuelu. When they posted me, I woke up to 4,000 followers, new followers. That's crazy. Like, and Asuelo and Kalani, they've been helping me since the measles last year. So who would have known that I didn't know they were in another season until now. But because of them, I remember waking up and I seen all these donations. And I'm like, why is everyone donating on a Wednesday? I was like, what's happening? And then I see a tag from Kalani and I click on it and I was like, oh my God, she promoted it. She always promotes it on her story, but not on as a post. And so that's been helping us with COVID-19. And all the projects we do is for me to promote our youth to do it, because a lot of our youth here in Samoa don't know what's happening. They don't know who's the most vulnerable families. They need to know these things. And, all these things got to do with like our mental health or what's happening in our community. If you're poor, like it's hard for me to come and do work if you don't even have your basic essentials, like, necessities. Like I'm going to come and try to talk about sexual abuse, domestic violence, but you're trying to put food on the table. At the same time, you don't have electricity. We still have a lot of families in Samoa that don't have electricity, don't have water. And I see some people post, like, well, that's how Samoa is. It's like, no, it's not. Samoa actually has people do really need electricity for doing homework at night. You know what I mean? Like kids need, when it's dark here about 5, it's 5 right now. It's already dark here in Samoa. So imagine if you have kids and they have to do schoolwork, they finish at 5 because it get dark. There's families that got to pay taxi drivers 30 tala just to go get a pail of water to come back to into their village. So a lot of the community projects to also wake my youth here on what's happening in our community, what is really needed, and when they make it into the government levels, they know to give back. So that's a lot of stuff that we've been doing. It always goes back to sexual abuse and domestic violence. Like October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so I make sure that we do stuff during October, and then it's Mental Health Day. We did something yesterday. So yeah, we've been growing and growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've been reading up a lot on just you in general, but like I said before we got on, like you're amazing. Like for somebody to come out of that and still be as strong as you are, like that's wow, that speaks volumes on just you itself. Like that's awesome.
Thank you. I think I think my motivation is a lot of us. I don't know if it's because we hear stories from our family so much. We love people that come from experience. You know what I mean? Like I see
That's
a lot
true.
of kids, they rather hear from someone that went through it. They don't want to hear from somebody that didn't go through it. So I think that's a lot. It's helpful a lot when I go and tell my story, because like I said before, people think I went from 0 to 100. Like I got, I became the strong woman without this process. And when I say that I'm a victim of sexual abuse and domestic violence, they're just like, I would have never thought. You know what I mean? Like I would have never thought you. And it's like, man, you got to understand, when you see somebody that's in there, that knows who they are and in their power, they went through a lot to get to where they're at, where they can be strong enough, where doors close on me all the time here in Samoa. But, I'm going to figure it out. I didn't come this far. You know what I mean? I'll find a way to get back up and to keep on doing this work. So it's making sure kids know that there's a process, and that, we were talking earlier with what's happening in American Samoa and the high suicide rates over there. And just thinking about them, like internet is, technology is so fast that they don't get to, instant gratification of likes, of easy access to friends, that they don't get that there's more to life than just the instant likes. And it's scary to me because we're seeing the suicide notes as posts on Facebook, and they're actually going through with it. And, I'm giving props to everybody in American Samoa right now that's doing the work. They're I see people doing counseling sessions to teach teachers how to counsel their students during this time. I see the churches doing prayer meetings, doing musical ministry, and the villages doing walks. Like, we need all of it.
I know earlier you were talking about like you don't know why they're doing it or whatever, or maybe it's because of the high of drugs, like so much drugs out there. Because you said ice is a big drug out there, right?
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of different groups have been messaging me, doing Zoom meetings on what's going on in American Samoa, and I don't see a lot of people posting like ICE is huge. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we don't want our country, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
we don't want our own like American Samoa to be known for ICE, but it's there. It's been there for a very long time. We've had this happen before with the high suicide rates in American Samoa, and ICE was another factor. So to be in 2020 and this happening again, and we're not trying to make sure that what are these factors so we can make sure the resources around the world, because this is not just an American Samoa, this is global, international, regional, because we don't have the resources. We don't have enough resources in American Samoa to make sure to help this epidemic. So we need to make sure that we're honest, stay in our truth, be honest. It's like 2020, we're in COVID-19.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we got to be truthful to our youth. And I think that's another reason why, a lot of our kids are feeling the way they feel during this, pandemic, where they're in isolation. Not a lot of our homes are safe. You know what I mean? Now kids are at home more often. It's going to be harder for them to call for help. You know what I mean? They're going to be with whoever that might not be the safe person in the same house. So how do we find ways to help them? And how do we make the internet for us than against us? And that's the same thing with our culture. When perpetrators, they use our culture and our religion against us because they know it silences us. How do we again use that against them to make it stronger? And we know this, that all this happens in our family. Like, our parents are our first teachers. If they're not safe, we live in villages. Our house is like 10, you know what I mean? Like, right next door. We've gone to a place where we're not even, accountable for each other. I always tell this to my cousins back home in Cali. Like, man, I see that when I go, the last time I was in Cali was last year, and I see all my cousins drinking in front of the church hall. And I was like, man, when I was your age, I would have got beat by everybody.
Right.
I got beat.
Dragged.
Right? Even
Dragged.
people weren't related to me. But we, even, the aspect of, living overseas, you see the accountability lost. You see it here now, and that just shows how westernized Samoans becoming, where we're very individual. Like, I don't care what's happening with that person. That ain't my kid. You know what I mean? Even though we live in the same village. And American Samoa is closer to America than it is Samoa. So you can only imagine how American Samoa is.
That is nuts.
That's so crazy. And I remember you sharing a story about the taxi driver, how he was telling you a story about him helping someone that was on crack.
On ice.
Oh, on ice. I'm so sorry. Yes, on ice. And he would always leave food for him every day. And then I think a year went around, and then he ended up committing suicide. And then that's what led to you on questioning on, he asked you, what more could I have done? And then I remember one of your answers is, we need to do more than just saying, how are you doing? Here's food. I'm gonna leave it right here. It's like, get involved. Let's go ahead and give them like rehab center, or what's the information for someone that's able to actually like go down into the dirt and help him come out from whatever issue or whatever rut he is in. Like, that's one thing that I love was the story that you brought up with the taxi driver. Yeah,
I think our older generation, that was okay during their time. You know what I mean? I remember listening to Big Oos radio the other day, and they had the Matangi siblings on and talking about their poetry. And I remember they were saying we have this, it's the same message, but a different method. And that's the same idea. Like, maybe during your time, it was okay to make them feel like, during youth, giving them food was enough, during their time. But we in a different generation where we need to speak. These kids have more information. They have way more resources than we had in education than, back in the day had. So I understood he was so excited to tell me about this story because he thought he did good by, giving food every day. But it's like, see, you just helped him. He was still a tweaker every day. You know what I mean? He came every day and still was a tweaker. So you were just helping him for another day to be tweaking out. And for him not to ask other people as well, you know what I mean? Like, that was a long time for you to find some resources for him, to ask people like, oh, this kid in my village. And he said everybody knew in the village that he was an ICE kid. And that I'm sure everybody knows now. Everybody knows in American Samoa who the drug dealers are. It's a small country. There's only 50,000 people in American Samoa. So you just think about, the government, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like how our government is run in American Samoa, what's really happening. And, it goes to our youth. They're the most vulnerable of generation is the youth.
I would have to say too. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Voss. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I would say the days are getting just so evil. I feel like not only are there just this now generation has so many different resources and so many different outlets and so many things accessible to them right away. So it's almost hard to get in front of them in their home and get in front of them even off of social media, because what is bad is now good. It's like things have been reversed. I feel like there was almost a gap that was missed that could bridge the discipline from back in the day to bringing it to being okay now, because I used to get beat. I mean, beat. And, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, but I'm almost like, I'm so grateful that my dad was so hard on me, because it really did hold me back from doing, like, it made me second guess as I got older, my decisions. Like, oh my gosh, like maybe this is what that Fosse session was about, but I think it's just so sad of the whole respect factor in regards. I feel like we still haven't hit it on the head where you can have an open discussion and conversation saying, this happened to me. At this point, what do we do? Because, it happens so close to home to me. I think that sometimes parents are afraid to even address it because I think shame has a lot to do with addressing certain situations because you said it in the beginning of this podcast, the communal aspect of our culture. And I love that about our culture. We're such people. We are the happy people of the earth. And we're big. We're big in love. We're big in family. We're big in, just family coming over. Friends are family to us. So it's just like, at what point, can you have that conversation? But even in that juncture, it's almost as if, what good does it do to speak on it and not address it, or to speak on it and have a heart of hate? What was it for you that you were able to, Brown Girl Woke is this huge movement, and you're touching so many lives, with just even your story. And you came out at 23 after years of this thing happening. And it's great because it's like your mom has one response and your dad has one response. And to me, I'm like, girl, wow, your dad had a good like, wow, that's beautiful to have that kind of relationship with your father, because Samoans are so harsh, So it's just like hearing the two, like you have your dad who's like, look at this, and, we can look at here, and here. And then you have your mom's like, well, we'll pump your brakes a little bit, be careful. What did you say? Did it happen like this? Oh, he's not even your uncle. It's just not trying to, I just want to express the fact that you have two parents in one home with completely different perspectives, and for you literally use both of those as building stones for this Brown Girl Woke. So how can you encourage the woman or even the men? People don't talk about the men that actually get molested, but it happens in our culture. It happens, really, and I feel like shame has a lot to do with keeping them down, so it's just like, how do you encourage the next person, someone who's going through something similar, to almost address and not necessarily address, but kind of like what outlets could they exercise to get through this? Because mental is a huge thing right now. And with when you brought up the topic of children being home, I'm not kidding. When COVID happened, I cried for the children that were at home with abusive parents or abusive relatives, or who had to put up with, like, my heart went out to them. I'm like, who's there for these children? Because I witnessed a lot of that growing up. So it's just like, if that was happening then, and the way the world is now, that's happening times 10 now in a home, but even bigger, So, I mean, how do you encourage the now generation on addressing that and using that and fueling that for their purpose?
I think for me, everything starts with us. You know what I mean? Like, the generation before, hopefully we're that new generation that has the kids that we're going to do what I said earlier, make sure we understand family roles. But for any youth, not all of us are going to be, and I say this too, like, so when I do poetry slams, a lot of my kids, some of them, they do sexual abuse pieces, but they never been sexually abused. They just, read history or know friends. So they do stories. So this is what I always tell them. Not all of us are going to be the ones speaking out. We got to have different, just like we're a communal culture, we got people just to support, people to listen, people that you have that are good friends to talk to. At this point, anybody that's young, that is a victim of sexual abuse or domestic violence or anything, like, the first thing you do is make sure that you have those people in your lives. Like, my really good friend yesterday, we were at a mental health conference yesterday, and he was like, you should have speed dial. You should have your 5 family, friends on speed dial. If you don't have that, do that now. Like, think about it. If you had to talk to somebody right now that could save you right now, make sure you put that person in your phone. And we don't do that. We don't, like, if something happened to us, who do we call? We think of our parents, and that's like, right when we think about our parents, we go straight to, oh my gosh, I'm not going to tell my parents. And then it just sticks to that. But we need to make sure that we have all these procedures. Like we said, we have so much resources for this next generation. It could be overwhelming, and it's still scary because you don't know any of these people. You don't know if they're going to answer that phone call. I don't even know if I remember ever calling a toll free. Did you guys ever call it, one of those like hotlines?
No.
I don't want to, like you said, like when we used to get beat, I used to think the same thing, like, this is it for me, but I never called one of those hotlines. But we're at a point where everyone's a part of this. Like, even for a person that's a victim, if I know they got a best friend that knows. That best friend or that cousin, that's their best cousin, whatever, you become equipped. You become that support. You become that advocate for her. Like, make sure that your support system and who you surround yourself can make sure that you can start speaking to somebody that will your trust and that you can do something. But it's not an easy thing. It's never easy. Like I always say, you could always message me. I get messages from people all around the world. And I always make time to make sure that I message everybody and find resources in their own place, because there is a lot of people that are doing the work. We just don't know. Sometimes we're just so in our work that we don't know how to get to them. But there's people like me and other organizations that do know the people that we can be like, hey, I have somebody in Washington, go to this person, or I know these organizations that can help. But there's another thing. A lot of people come to me and they're like, I let down somebody. You know what I mean? Like, you can never think about you let someone down. You just think about, let's make sure that I have a group of support. So anybody that's a victim, like, and you don't know how to talk to your parents, or that your parents are people that, like the old Samoan mentality, it's your fault, or they, you think they're not gonna listen. Sometimes they do. My mom is very old school. So in my mind, when I was finally had the guts to tell my mom, I really thought she was going to blame me. And she was telling me, why didn't you tell me? She also then told me, even years later, after I did so much work, that she's seen it in her own family. Now, imagine if she told me these signs when I was growing up, how I could have went away from this. You know what I mean? But we don't. We think that if we don't tell our kids what happened to us, that's not going to happen to them. Like, my mom sheltered me so much. Like, I couldn't go nowhere. I couldn't sleep at nobody's house. And I always tell this to other people, like, sometimes your parents shelter you so much because they might be hiding something that happened to them. You know what I mean? Like my mom never let me go to none of my family's houses. And if I did, she'd be like, yeah, pack your bags and go pack your bags and go live with them. Like every time I wanted to sleep over at a cousin's house, like, why can't I sleep at my cousin's house? And then, 20 years later in my life, my mom tells me that she's seen it also in her family, but she didn't know how to address it. So she just thought sheltering me would help, not knowing that I would be molested in my own home. As much as she sheltered me, it still happened because she never told me. When she leaves, you can shelter me so much, but when you leave the home, I'm not going to know. So there's a lot of factors. It's just a lot of, even researching, like, again, if we're going to be, just because of SOE and we're using the internet more to talk to family and friends, like, you guys' platform, this is going to help somebody. Someone's probably that's a victim, that's a survivor, see this and hit all of us up, and just pray on them and try to help them with the resources. And when you find that help, that's going to help somebody else.
That is so crazy how you said that. That is super true. With the whole, thank you for talking about that. The whole actually talking about it to your kids. I was gonna actually say that before you had said that. Um, I actually know somebody that actually went through something like that, and they told like their whole family or whatever, and all they could say was, "It's okay. It happened to all of us." Like, how do you react to something like that? Like, how could you help someone like that? I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but they just pretty much swept it under the rug just to save their name. Their last name is,
Yeah.
like she said earlier, shame.
And it deals with, I think, with making sure that they understand it will come out. What is hidden in the dark comes into light. Like, it will manifest. Like with myself, I blocked it from 14 to 18. When I hit university, I was in an abusive relationship. So that's why I say I'm a survivor of sexual abuse and domestic violence. And I never knew why. I was such a happy person, but I stayed with this person because the only love I knew was that type of love, hurt and pain. And I just wanted, something. I was like this, like, empty vessel that just wanted to be filled with pain because that's all I knew was hurt and pain. Until I found healing, everything was like adjusted. Like my path just went clear. Like everything I've done, everything I prayed for, everything that was meant to be was happening for me. And that's what we have to understand. As much as we think that, I'm going to sacrifice, this happened to my whole family, they think it's okay, it's going to come back. And it's going to come back maybe to the next children. And you don't want that to happen. And sometimes, I have family members that it happened to their children now, and they finally prosecuted the person. But it's just like, man, let's not wait until it happens to our children. You know what I mean? That's what's going to happen. Like, you think you're going to save by, this is just us and it only happened to us. No, that person's still out there. He's not going to stop because no one stopped him. He's going to think it's okay. So yeah, just to the families that think it, like you said, that it happened to all of them, it's okay. It's going to come back to this next generation in your family. And until you want to break that curse, it's going to keep going. And it's the crazy part, it's always like one person against so many. Yet we can't make sure that person goes to jail.
Yeah.
And it's because we make this person a product of who we are, our reflection, but they are not our reflection of our beautiful, culture, our people, our family. We just think that we had to save them for some reason, that because we didn't take care of them, that they became, no, it has nothing to do with us. This person needs help. You know what I mean? And that's another thing about people that do, about perpetrators. They need help. They need to get the right help to help them, or they just stay like this. And it teaches other people to become that way as well.
I completely agree with that as well. As a firm believer in Christ and, with the word, I would say as a survivor myself, it literally was Jesus Christ, my relationship with God, that allowed me to forgive those who oppressed me, and not just that, I forgave that person. and this is just the most craziest thing, because when that happened in my life, I was like, I need to leave entirely and become an entirely new person. I just need to get out and go. And I did, and moving to Hawaii, I really was able to develop my relationship with God. And he really allowed me to find forgiveness for the person that hurt me. And it got to the point to where literally years later, I run into my offender. But check this out. He was with his wife. And the craziest thing is that I shared everything with my husband. There's not one thing that has not happened to me in my life that I have not uncovered to him. And when we ran into this person again, he was just like, I don't know how you could forgive somebody for doing such a thing. And oh my gosh. And what's crazy is that night, me and my husband were able to pray over him and his wife, and prayed over their union and their marriage, and it was just the craziest thing. And I couldn't I helped myself from crying, tears literally just flooding down my face. And I'm just like, God, how can something so, gross and disgusting happen to me, and still yet I'm able to forgive and then speak love and life right back into, that same situation, in that marriage, in that union. And it just showed me that, God is greater than all things, and that literally, if he has given me the ability to forgive and heal, maybe some things that offenders do that does happen, because sin is out there, it's happening everywhere. You choose rightfully and willfully if you want to condone an inaction or take part in anything, So for me, I'm just like, Lord, thank you that, this man has changed way on his own, And the crazy thing is, I showed up in Seattle out of nowhere for an event, and we run into them. And I'm like, whoa, God, literally only things that God can do, So, and at that moment too, God became even more real for my husband. And it was just such a beautiful thing. There is healing in it as well, I would say. And that people go through hard things, and everything is not always perfect and right. And no way, shape, or form am I trying to be on the offender side, because I believe you reap what you sow. And you deserve everything that's coming to you from your actions, I do not at all stand behind, oh, no, love them. Oh, absolutely not. The Lord, allow the Lord to do his thing. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't out there. I wasn't looking for the dude, or at the same time, I didn't let hate consume my heart to where it overwhelmed my marriage, where I wasn't able to find love myself, So that's something to take into, hindsight, that don't allow the enemy to block you from really where God is taking you, because he's going to try, whether it be sex, whether that be drugs, whether that be other relationships, whether it be your friends, anything can be a roadblock from those points. But yeah, Voss, sis, you going into that as well for your friend, that's such a hard thing to address when you're bringing it out and they say, oh, well, he's done it to everyone. What's another one? I honestly, I believe the only person that can assist you in helping that and healing that is God, is Jesus Christ. I don't believe you're going to find the answer anywhere else and healing anywhere else. Of course, time will definitely assist in that. But for your friend, girl, we gotta hit her up and like what she said, speed dial. What's popping? What is popping?
Right. And one thing I love about you ladies is that both of you two did not let your past consume your future. Like your future marriages now, like the pain isn't there anymore. Like literally you two are literally transformed women from who you were before to now.
Yeah, no, and then it's to break these generation curses, we have to look at the perpetrator's past. Like what made this person do this? You know what I mean? So it's not too much of, yeah, like you said, let's let Jesus, he needs to go to jail. But at the same time, we need to know what made this person, you know what I mean? How did this person get here? Because this person is going to make more, you know what I mean? They're going to be people that and there's a high percentage of people that get molested molest others. You know what I mean? So like, a lot of like people that I've counseled that are perpetrators, and I work with perpetrators as well. They were molested as well, but no one ever told them anything different. It just became a thing and they couldn't stop. And it became like an addiction to them, and they never get help. And we're making so much, like here in Samoa, we have so much women organizations for the victims. We have like probably only like 2 small programs for the perpetrator, or they just go to jail. And in the jail system here in Samoa, there isn't any, counseling or anything in there to help perpetrators as well, compared to like in America where they'll get counseling and go through like different organizations to help them, figure out how do they stop, being perpetrators. So yeah, there is, and give me props too, because even my ex-boyfriend who was abusive to me, even for me, I didn't pray over him. I probably had like a little but I did, like we understand each other. So we just like, I say hi or whatever when we see each other when I go back home. But, I just let it go because I'm married to an amazing person. And I think even for me, if I didn't go through all that, I wouldn't know what a good man is. Because before I just thought I only deserved that. You know what I mean? I only deserved men. I don't even know why, just because of what I went through as a young adult. Again, not having parents. Again, it's our communication, not having parents telling me what kind of man I should be dating, a God-fearing man, things like that. Again, it's going back to conversations that we have at home that we need to conversate with our children. And, now that I'm an adult, I knew what I wanted and needed. And I'm married to a beautiful Fijian man that lives in Fiji.
Hey.
Bula Vinaka.
Yeah. It's Fiji Language Week.
Oh, so she was right. She was right. She said that it was.
But yeah, definitely. We had mental health week yesterday. Conference yesterday. So we had a lot of good people talking, and then I took away from that. When our mental health doctor was saying, you got to have these people on speed dial. So now I did it. Like I went on my phone. I was like, I didn't even think about that. Who is my speed dial people? And if you look at apps, safety apps, they even do that. They'll like safety apps. I don't know if you guys have you looked at safety apps before?
Mm-mm.
The only reason why I'm looking at safety apps because I'm trying to do a safety app here in Samoa when people come through. So in the safety app, it tells you to pick 5 people where if you think you're lost, your location goes straight to them.
Oh,
so even in the apps, they know, like, you know what I mean? Like, so like, oh yeah, that is true. Because, if something happens to you, you just click the thing and it gives all the locations to 5 people.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah, there's cool apps out there. I'm like, man, I need to.
Right.
Girl, let's tag team. I'm down for the tech for sure, especially if it's about helping people. That's fire.
So, being a strong woman like yourself and knowing that love is blind is really real. What is your advice to the women who feel that they can't leave that environment due to blind love?
It's always hard, especially when it deals with children. If they have kids, I always hear like, when I have like some of my referrals that they can't leave because of their kids. It's always something like that. And I think that we have to understand there's a point where you gotta think about yourself and you being strong enough to leave and take care of your kids. And it's going to be a healthier environment. Because again, we're teaching our daughters, our sons that this is okay. And if you think it's not, like, again, I say it manifests. Like, it's going to allow maybe your son to either be a person that does abuse to their wife, or your daughters to go through love the same way. If that's all they see, it's about your environment. Like, what are you teaching your kids and yourself? I had a really good friend. She went through abuse, domestic violence for 20 years. And she waited, and she had those strict Samoan moms where her mom said, no, stay in. Even though the mom lived with them, knew she was getting beat. Until her mom passed, she finally left him. And now she's in her 40s. And you know what I mean? Now she got to look for love in her 40s. And it's just like, man, the sacrifices that we do still for our parents. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much factors why we stay in, and it's always a not about us. But you can't love nobody if you don't love yourself. You know that idea that, you know what I mean? So if you're going to love for everybody else, you're going to put yourself and your children always last in the back burner. And that's not healthy for nobody.
Dang.
And you know, all like everything, I don't think I would, if I didn't do this work so much and get so much stories, I wouldn't have like this, like so much, you know what I mean? Like information in my head. It's because I have so much people messaging me. I've been doing this work for 10 years, and it's just like, it's the same. We have this, nothing is different. And it's just, we're still not making the right approaches. We're still allowing it to keep on going and brushing it under the rug. It's always about our families, always, all the time. So why don't we make our families stronger where we're actually going against perpetrators? We're actually speaking up, like not minding our, had the idea, mind your own business, when you see somebody beat somebody in your own family. No, it is our business, because that's going to reflect on you, and it's going to be a reflection throughout your family.
What does Brown Girl Woke look like 10 years from now? What do you want to see for your foundation, for your business, for the women that you're going to come across? Well, what does that look like 10 years from now?
So like right now, like I'm in my 3rd year. So in my 5th year, in my mind, I have a center. So I already have an office. So I'm hoping that I'll have a center here in Samoa. And then hopefully, my whole point of coming here was to bridge the gap from America to Samoa. So I'm going to go back home. You know what I mean? But I want to make sure that we have that, like, what are the resources that we're already doing in Samoa that can help us in America? You know what I mean? Because Samoa, as much as we feel like it's old school and they don't have as much technology, all they do is work for our Samoan people and our culture, you know what I mean? And religion. So they're going to know more stuff for us to learn, to come back to us here in America on why things are happening and how to work it out. So that's always been my goal, to make a center here and then go back to America and make a center there. Because we still don't have, we have like small things in America, but I want like a full-on center for Pacific Islander women, shelter for kids.
That's beautiful.
Because I've been in the shelters. I've been working, like I said before, I used to work in the Asian Pacific Islander shelters. And even though, if you guys ever go to Asian Pacific Islander like conferences, period, you already feel like the minority. When they asked me to come speak, there was at least 10, like 2 Samoan families, a Tongan family, and a Hawaiian family. So altogether, there were like 10 out of like 100 other like Asian, other like Pacific, like Hawaiian, Hawaiian, Filipino, all these other Asian nationalities. But our people were still the minority. So our voices still felt not heard, you know what I mean, in these spaces. Even though they asked me to be a guest speaker, I'm only speaking to them. You know what I mean? Like they'll understand me, but for how long will we always have speakers there? And, I'm only there that one day, you know what I mean? They'll go back to the shelter and be with everybody else. So I wanted something that's specifically for Pacific Islanders, just because, can you imagine having that Samoan mom in the kitchen and speaking life? Like, you know what I mean? I could just imagine a beautiful center of Pacific Islander women that know how to, and we have amazing, mothers and grandmas and aunties that know how to nurture. So I see that in my mind.
That really gets me so excited. It gets me so happy and excited about the future of our culture and of brown skin women, like brown girl popping. I'm so like, it's so incredible that you came from Frisco. Hello, Dijon Len. And how you come from Frisco, go all the way to, travel all the way to Samoa. To get these roots and to really build. Yeah, you want to join us? Join us, and just going to the grassroots and really getting these solutions and paving the way. I think that's so beautiful, and especially because, like you said, like Polynesian people, period, are the minorities. Honestly, let's be real. And for you to open it up to not just the culture, but women in general, of color, and that to me is like, wow, this honestly, Brown Girl Woke, I could definitely see you building out this empire and having multiple of your senses. I wouldn't even put the brakes on it or even slow it down to say 2 places by your 5th year. I see you having at least 6 or 7 by your 5th year, and 10xing that in your 10-year marker. Just, you got a strong message, an incredible story, and you can just hear it in the passion in your heart and how you express all these things. And oh my gosh, I'm excited for the women that are going to come across your platform and be forever changed. And I feel like that's what is the heartbeat of you. The essence of you is really getting these women and men to these points of changing the trajectory. So hats off to you. Thank you so much for just all that you are and what you pour out to women, period. Thank you.
No, I'm so blessed. Again, even having this platform for me to speak, it's always great to be with like-minded people. You know what I mean? Like, hey, talking to my girls, like, even though I know we just met, it's like we all on that same wave. You know what I mean? Like, God makes sure to bring us all together. This whole week, a lot of different women ministries from the Bay, my home, and different places have been, even Australia and New Zealand, been sending me prayers. And I'm like, man, I need it, during this time, like, especially during this time. So I'm always blessed to even learn from you guys and what you guys are doing. I always love watching you guys' videos. It always cracks me up because it's so real. I'm like, finally, a podcast is hella real. I always crack up when I'm watching your videos, and I always try to post and promote you guys as well. As you know, Samoa internet is super slow. And it's crazy. Usually when I do Zooms, it breaks. It has not broken this whole time. So God is good. Like, it usually dies out by this time. I can't believe it's still going. So definitely the message is meant to be.
Yeah. I would definitely love, once COVID opens, and if you're open for it as well, I would love to put together a female conference. I don't quite know what the name is, but I feel that brewing in my spirit, and whenever the spirit leads, I'm like, okay, Lord, where? Over there, but I definitely feel like something greater is going to happen, and I definitely want to be a part of whatever it is that you got going on, and definitely want to forge. I love that you said that, bridging the gap. I love that so much. So yeah, however the Polyplug can be an assistance to Brown Girl Woke, we're definitely, we want to build up that relationship and help and assist as much as possible. Do you have on your website links for for the donations and receiving of your platform?
Yes, so you could go on www.browngirlwoke.co/donation, and we actually have where it takes $20 a month out of your account each month, and that money goes to our groceries during COVID-19. Like everyone should know, Samoa is run by tourism, but we're closed. It's more tourism than agriculture, which you think would be the opposite, but it's not. So you can only imagine how much families need help right now. So we're just asking people to donate 20 US. That's almost 60 tala here. That gets us enough. When all the money pours in, it's enough for us to get them a huge amount of groceries for the month. And we've been doing that each month since the measles last year, and we help 30 families each month. And we go out to the villages. Yeah, it's always great because we go and do house visits, and that's something that I always want for my youth to see. Because sometimes, like again, we say this young generation, they're so used to technology that they don't get that human connection. And going out into the villages and realizing, and it's like, yeah, you guys, you might not know. I was like, there is people struggling. Like, they need to understand that they're not alone. There is somebody that needs more help than you do when you feel like you need more. So yeah, it's been great. We've been doing that every month. We also give diaper donations to the hospital because the borders are closed. We have some children that can't go fly into New Zealand right now that are terminally ill. So we do packages once a month, and we go and sing to the kids at the hospital. There's 16 kids at the hospital right now, and we just go and sing and pray over them. And that's once a month. So we do everything once a month because in my group because we're still in state of emergency and we're not supposed to be moving too much. So we just do what we can and make sure that, it's transparent, it's consistent. I always try to do things that our culture is not used to. You know what I mean? We're so used to people, hyping things up and don't do it. So I always do things small and impactful because I want kids to understand there is trust. We can do this. Do what you can, not do, beyond your means. And that's something that is just ingrained in us. We always want to do so much. That's why I'm never mad when people are like, oh, I'm going to do this for you and don't come through. I'm sure we all been like, man, you were hyping me up.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to get all these groceries this morning, but I never get mad because it's part of our culture to maybe they thought they would and something happened and bills came in. So I'm just always happy that someone tried to, and just know that I already have what we have as donations each month and anything that anyone adds onto it. And that's why we ask for so little. We do get local donations on island, and the $20 adds up. We have, because of Kalani and Osuelu, we have at least 30 now members that give $20 each month, which is a lot.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So it's been helping us a lot. So big ups to everybody that's been helping us. I crack up that, I always try to post about Osuelu and Kalani as well, because people are like, they're against the culture and blah, blah, blah. And I said, but they do give back. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really watch 90 Days, but she's been helping me since the measles. She is like, even when they have those videos, you know how people post videos of kids fighting in Samoa? She'll send me the video and she'll be like, sis, how do I help? Or she'll send me a video of there was a video going viral here in Samoa where a husband, beat his wife, and that video went viral. She sent it to me. Did you see it? Yeah. She sent it to me and she's like, sis, I want to donate to that wife, donate to the wife and to help her get out of that situation. And I seen her posting, like, if anyone could find this family, please tell me. Yeah. So I messaged her, and the good thing about her, everyone's learning. We're all learning. We got to know that when I say something, it's because I'm in this profession. Mm-hmm. So I messaged her, I was like, sis, sometimes money doesn't help. You know what I mean? She might still stay with that man, and that money you're giving might go to the husband. So let's wait on it. Let me call her, because I'm here on island, and see where her situation is at and how can we help her get out of the situation. Because sometimes we think money can help everything, but it doesn't. Mm-hmm. Time does. Communication does. You know what I mean? Prayer comes into play, not always money.
Big facts.
But yes, and you could find me on browngirlwoke.ceo, Instagram, Facebook. I always see Vasa like, find us on.
I know. I'm always trying to figure it out. You would think I know by now.
Everyone be like, okay, go Vasa. And Vasa, me again. Okay, find us on Facebook. See, I be watching.
Yeah.
So those are all our platforms.
But I'm always doing that. You would think I know it by now, but I don't.
That's the funny part.
I do know Brown Girl Woke, though. I was on there like all the time. Like I said, man, that's amazing. How you give back, and you want nothing for it. That's what's crazy about it.
Man, God freaking blesses me 1,000 times because my speaking. A lot of people are always asking me, like, where do I get the money? Because of me speaking so much, I get speaking engagements, and they pay a lot. Like people from Australia send, like, I think God is so good. Like I literally speak for almost 5,000, and that's not my fee. That's the fee that they give me when I go speak for Australia or go into like Asia. You know what I mean? Like. So people are always like, where do you get your money? I was like, I actually get paid when I go to Asia. Like if you guys didn't see, I travel a lot. Like last year, I probably traveled like 20 times to different countries, and I get paid for it. And that's all from doing this work. And I did this, girl, I did this work for free for like 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, but look at you now. It all paid off, girl.
It's paying off now. And you know what? Just to add on to that, people don't realize or understand that success is built from work. WORK. And you put in that work for free. Love what you do. So everything you've got into it for free, and in due season, it'll give you your dues. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's powerful, girl. Yes. Yeah. 10 years. Whew, girl.
I know, it's like always crazy. I always like try to be like 21 with all the kids, and they're like, "How long have you been doing this?" I'm like,
You don't even want now.
But yeah, no, definitely, it's been all this work has been great. Just meeting our families and understanding them more, and just like thinking about going back home. Like I think that's even for kids here in Samoa. Like people always like, what do you tell kids here to make sure for this to stop? I was like, when they leave, come back. Like for me, Samoa isn't my home. You know what I mean? California is my home to me, you know, always. But for kids that are from Samoa, go get your education, come back. You know what I mean? Come back because you're going to be more equipped to come back and change what's happening here. For myself, it's the same thing. I left to go back, to get as much as I needed here to go back, to make sure that I can teach what I learned here and the information. And it hasn't been too different. You know what I mean? Just like my Samoan's better. But yeah, it's been great. It's been great work. And again, like being in these platforms, getting asked to speak, it's always something that I love doing because I need to share the information. You know what I mean? Like when I find out things I need to share, and all of us need to share. Everybody got something to share that's great and that we can use and we can help each other with.
So please, everyone, if you see the link right under the beautiful Doris, you see browngirlwoke.co/donate/donate today. Okay, I know I'm going to be making my donation here as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm so excited about that. And again, on Instagram, Facebook, Brown Girl Woke. Right, Voss? Voss, plug it in, girl. Plug it in.
Yeah.
All platforms.
All of them. But yeah. So we are ending it on that note. I am so grateful. I am thankful that you actually are on today, Doris. I'm woke. I'm woke. Like if y'all ain't woke yet, like what? What? But yeah, don't forget to donate. She's doing so many good things out there in Samoa, and that's you see, I'm speechless because it's freaking amazing. But yes, we are gonna end it on that note. Don't forget you can find her on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Doris, for your message today. And I'm pretty sure someone out there heard you and they're like, I need to get on. You know, like, thank you so much. And I appreciate it. And thank you to all our viewers today. I mean, if you guys wasn't on here, y'all missed out. Like, where were y'all?
Okay, so replay. Hey.
Yes, but
Everyone's
all right,
not
guys.
looking at
Like I say every night, Saturday night.
Oh,
you guys
that's right.
can
They're all
anywhere.
at local.
What?
White Sunday. It's White Sunday. White Sunday practice. You know, they got to get the practice in before tomorrow. Tomorrow's White Sunday. You know, respect.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But don't be judging me. Don't be judging me. But yes, like I say every Saturday, y'all could have been anywhere else, but y'all here with us, and we love you guys. Have a great night. Don't forget to donate. Brown Girl Woke, it's right there.
Yes,
And it's
yes,
gonna be
yes,
on after this goes off. So if you guys forget it, y'all know y'all can just go back in the comments, click on that link, and it'll still be in there. All right, guys, we love you guys and have a great night.
Good night.